Step number 1, make sure you have the right resources. You're gonna need gasoline to run the generator. Step 2, I pull the generator backwards. Step 4, flip those breakers. So I use red Sharpie, you can see it. Hi, and welcome back to Purple Collar Life. You might be able to hear the generator running behind me. Today is April 2nd. Yesterday was April Fool's Day, but the storms that came through here were no joke. We've been without power since yesterday afternoon, so almost 24 hours here, and I've got the generator running, powering the house. There's a couple things we'll be talking about in this video. 1, the things in the house that we power with the generator, and 2, the steps to change from shore power to generator power. Part 1, we're going to talk about the power outage we're currently in and what things I use the generator to connect to in the house to keep things going when there's no power. And that'll be helpful to Jennifer if ever I'm not here and she has to switch over to generator power, and it'll be helpful to you to understand what things I change to make that switch. So our generator is not a whole house generator. We do not have natural gas here. So what our generator is a gas powered generator that is powering only a portion of our all electric house. Like we've said in previous videos, this is an all electric house. We have electric baseboard heat, electric range, electric hot water heater. We do live in a rural area, so we have a water well. That means there's a pump down at the bottom of that well. So all of things that are connected to our house use a lot of electricity. There's no way that a portable generator could power all of that. So I'm going to talk to you about what things I do power when I hook the generator up. Now, I've made a video before about the easy connection of the GenerLink system to connect your generator to your house. So I'll put a link to that video up above and down below in the description. You can check those out after you watch this video. But like I said, this will be a list of what we're powering right now during a current power outage in Northwest Pennsylvania and the step-by-step of how to make that change. So the first thing, if it's the wintertime like it always seems to be when the power goes out, the first thing we want to power up is the pellet stove. That gives our house heat. We cannot heat all the house with the baseboard heaters using a generator. So the pellet stove and the wood stove are our heat sources when there is no power. The generator connects to those very first thing. That's the first breakers I turn on. The next thing I turn on is the water well. So like I said, we have a pump in the bottom of a well that gives us water for our house. We are not on city water system. So in order for that pump to be able to pump water, we've got to have 220 volts of electricity going down to it to pump the water back up. Having water means we can flush the toilet, we can run the shower, we can run the sink, wash our hands, we can get water for drinks. All that's possible because of the generator. The third thing we have connected are lights. So obviously, you know, when it's nighttime, it's very dark, especially when you live in the middle of the woods like we do. So we want to make sure we have lights in the bedroom, in the bathroom, in the kitchen, and then if we have any hallway or other areas that we'd like to have lighting, we have an outside light that we keep on even when the power's off. So lighting is important, and we pick up mainly the kitchen, the bedroom, and the bathroom as the primary light sources. The next thing we power with the generator is the microwave. An electric range uses way too much electricity for the generator to cover, so the microwave allows us to warm up things that we need for quick meals, and that's one of the things that's connected pretty quickly to the generator. One of the things I forgot to mention early on in the video is the refrigerator and the deep freezer. Those are actually the reasons I turn the generator on most of the time. We can survive for many hours usually without power, but unless it's really cold and we need the heat, or unless we need power to keep the food in the refrigerator and the freezer good, those are the key things that make me turn a generator on after a certain amount of time: refrigerator, freezer, and heat. One quick note about using what I call a construction or a contractor generator. That's what I call these type of generators. They produce good electricity, but it's not like that clean sine wave electricity. So I run through our Bluetti as an inverter to make sure it's clean electricity for sensitive electronics like my laptop. So as I'm editing video today, the generator is providing the electricity. It's going into the Bluetti or the Jackery, and then it's coming out as clean energy for my laptop to run on. So some of the things out here that you can see I'm powering, I do have the garage door open. One of the things when you don't have power that you can't do is get vehicles in and out of the garage. So the generator powers those garage doors to get cars in and out. Another thing I've got powered is the internet. So I use a combination of a APC backup unit power that powers the internet even initially when the power goes out, and then the generator to keep the internet going long after that. I've got some lights in the garage I power with the generator. I've got lights in the big building I power with the generator so that you can go into these buildings and it not be pitch black if you need to get gasoline or tools or anything like that during the time the power's out. If you do have electric garage door openers, you may not know this, or maybe you already do, it's possible to open those doors using a mechanical release. So there's usually a handle, you pull that handle, it releases the garage door from the opener track, and then you can pull that garage door up by hand. A couple words of caution though, sometimes over time those springs aren't as strong as they used to be, so you want to make sure that that garage door stays up when you're moving your car in or out so that it doesn't come down and crash or scratch the top of your vehicle. And two, like I said, that door can be heavy and you're going to be lifting it, so make sure you use proper lifting techniques. Get that door up out of the way while you move your car in and out. Now, like I said, we do not have an all-house generator. We do not have a natural gas-powered generator, a diesel-powered generator. What we have is a gasoline 8,500 watt generator. It does power out 220 volts, so that's good, but we cannot do some things. For example, we wouldn't want to try to charge the volt using the generator while it's also running the house. It would be powerful enough to charge the volt, if that was all it was doing, but not while it's trying to run the house. I mentioned inside about the baseboard heaters. We don't do that with the generator. We do not run dehumidifiers, so we've got a couple of dehumidifiers in the basement that run pretty much all the time. I turn those off when the generator's running. I turn certain circuits off, so I'll show you in our step-by-step procedure after this part of the video what breakers I turn on and off and how I mark those breakers so it's easier to identify which ones stay on for the generator. Because as you know, it always seems to be wintertime and it always seems to be dark out when you need to use a generator, and it's hard to get down in the basement and see those breakers. You can see this is where my power is going into the GenerLink, and we'll talk about that later on in the video. Another thing we don't power during generator times is any extra rooms, so the office or a den. Those are rooms that don't need power during these power outage times. I don't use the hot water tank, so if we did have to get showers, it'd be cold showers. Now there is a way around that. I could turn a couple other breakers off, make sure we don't run the microwave, turn the water pump off for a while, and we could actually let the hot water heater build up hot water, then switch it back off. But that's a little bit of a hassle sometimes, and I'm always afraid to overload the circuit. So most of the time, we leave the hot water heater turned off. So if we end up at 36 or 48 hours without power, we probably will make some of those switches, power up that hot water heater so we can get warm showers. Any other high draw items you have, like for example, if you've got a welder or an air compressor in the garage, you're gonna make sure those things are turned off so they're not drawing power during the time the generator is running. Now there is some preparation that's required if you're gonna be running your house off a generator during a power outage. We actually were running a little bit low on ethanol-free gas. Our generator is a carbureted engine, so I like to run only ethanol-free gas in it. Last night, luckily, we were able to drive a little ways away. There continues to be widespread power outages here, so the gas stations that are local to us, none had power, none of the pumps were working. We drove a little bit extra far to get ethanol-free gasoline that I can run in the generator and the tractor and other equipment that we may need. But I wanted to make sure I had, and I've already taken 2 jugs out of here, we had 20 gallons on hand to run that generator. I always have an emergency 6-gallon can that I have, if I'm totally out of gas, I can use that can, but I always like to make sure I have enough gas to keep the generator going as long as we need to. I also have a plan B contingency. So if I was afraid we didn't have enough gas, or if it was going to be hard, if we knew the power was going to be out for an extended period of time, we could always, if we needed to, use the Honda generator, the EU3000is. I've made a couple videos about that while we're camping. It'll power our entire camper. So we could, in a pinch, move out to the camper for a little bit, stay in the camper with heat because it gets its heat from the propane gas. It would have air conditioning if it is hot. And like I said, that generator would run the camper for an extended period of time. If we've camped for a couple weeks using the generator, we could easily stay in the camper if we needed to. Okay, so this part of the video is, like I said, for Jennifer and anyone else who needs a little tutorial on how to make that switch from our shore power or the regular power grid to the generator power. So Jennifer, here you go. Step number 1, make sure you have the right resources. You're gonna need gasoline to run the generator. I only run ethanol-free gasoline in our generator. Step 2, I pull the generator backwards so that it's pointing out the man door of the garage. I open one door of the garage at least, and then it's ready to run. Now I know I'll catch some grief on this. I know people say you shouldn't run the generator in the garage at all. We store it in the garage when we're not using it, and for using it during an emergency, I just wheel it forward, let that exhaust blow outside here into the outside world, and I also have the garage doors open for extra ventilation. Step 3, have a flashlight. I prefer this Nightcore MH20 flashlight or one of our LED flashlights I've shown on previous videos. because it's going to be dark in the basement even in the daytime if you're trying to switch those breakers. Step 4, flip those breakers. So I use red Sharpie. You can see it on that 100 amp breaker at the top of the window there. And anything that needs to be on for the generator, I mark with that red Sharpie. If it's gold or yellow Sharpie mark right out here, then you know those are optional or additional things we can add. But you can see on both sides of the breakers, I've got Sharpie marker on those ones we want to power on during generator use. The other ones I turned to off. Same thing here on the 100 amp expansion panel. You can see I've got some of those circuits marked that turn on for the generator. Ones that end up getting flipped off are things like the baseboard heater, the hot water heater, the electric range. Step 5, get our GenerLink cord out. This is the cord that connects the GenerLink on the electric meter to our generator. It's the proper size and gauge for the amount of power that our house needs from the generator. You can see it's one connection right here, but you want to get that all out and ready before you make your connection, and then you want to go ahead and make your connection like it says here on the tag before you start the generator. You do not want to have that power coming in when the generator is already running. So let's talk through starting up the generator. You can see I've already made my connection here. This is a quick connection, so you're just pulling down on this while you push the cord up into the bottom of the meter. Okay, now there's a couple things we want to do to start the generator. Right here is our fuel shutoff. That will be in the off position. Want to twist it to on. Right here is our on-off switch. Push that to on. Now if the generator were cold, you'd need to pull the choke right here all the way over towards you to the choke side. Right now it's not cold, it's been running. We'll put it back over on no choke. Here's our pull cord. We're going to start the generator up. It's important to note that our power cord is connected. Like I said, we've turned the fuel on and the switch on. Shouldn't take many pulls. So there you go. That's how easy it is to make the connection from the generator to the house with the GenerLink. It's a great invention, but we didn't always have that. I had the generator first, and I'd run 4 extension cords in from the 110 volt outlets to power things like the refrigerator and the freezer and the pellet stoves. So previously I'd have those 4 cords running into the house through a cracked window to power the refrigerator, the freezer, and the pellet stove so that we'd have heat and keep our food in good condition. So it doesn't always have to be the full system up front. You do what you can when you can, but now that we have the entire system, it's much easier. It would be nice if it would power the whole house, but our generator is not powerful enough to do that, and we're not going to invest a lot of money in that right away. It's great to have what we have because it certainly helps us out in a pinch like today. We are now at about 30 some hours without electricity. The generator is still running great, keeping our food cold, keeping our house warm. We've even got the television on watching some movies. We don't have internet right now. The internet's down, just like the power, but we can watch those old DVDs we've been saving. Thanks for watching. If you found this video informative or entertaining, we'd really appreciate it if you give us a thumbs up. Jennifer, if I'm away from home and you're using this tutorial to get the generator running, hopefully it was helpful. Leave those comments down below on what systems you use for emergency power outage situations, and we'll see you again the next time. Thanks for watching us on Purple Collar Life. When it's time to turn off the generator, switch the fuel to off. That'll cut the gas in the carburetor, let it run completely out. It'll stall itself out. And then once it's stalled out, flip that switch over to the off position. Down here underneath the meter, you'll see there are those 3 LED lights. When the power comes back on, one will be green. And when that power is back on and green, that's when I go ahead and remove this coupling from the generator. That switches us back over to the electric company power.